I'm a huge fan of the Super Nintendo version of Smash TV, so when I heard about a sequel, I just had to play it. Actually, it's an unofficial sequel, but when you play it, the connections between the two games are quite obvious.
I'll buy you for $1. I love it!
Also, the name Total Carnage comes from a famous line spoken in Smash TV. This time around, you're no longer a contestant on a game show. You've been sent to a Middle East war zone to rescue hostages and take down a dictator. Piece of cake, huh? The play mechanics are the same as Smash TV. You move in 8 directions with the D-pad and shoot in 8 directions with the 4 main buttons. Something new this time around is the ability to lay mines by pressing a shoulder button. You have a limited number, but occasionally you'll gain the ability to lay an unlimited number for a brief period of time. As far as the main weaponry, the selection is a big improvement over Smash TV. The rocket launcher now shoots 2 types of missiles at once, and there are 2 types of flamethrowers, each with a different range. The game is much larger in scope than Smash TV, and seems to have about 100 different ways to kill you. There's exploding barrels, electrified walls, parked vehicles that kill on contact, time bombs that have to be defused, and heat-seeking missiles that come out of nowhere. Of course, there's also swarms of enemy soldiers wanting to get rid of you. It's a recipe for cheap hits and unfair deaths. Even with a ton of practice and 1-ups laying around everywhere, this game will chew you up and spit you out. There is some hope though. If you get a second player involved, the experience becomes a lot more bearable. The extra firepower allows you to keep the enemies at bay, changing the game from a non-stop killing machine to a mere obstacle course full of pain. Besides the difficulty, the game is flawed in a couple other areas as well. The music is a letdown, especially compared to the wonderful music of the Super Nintendo version of Smash TV. There's also some parts of the game that are very repetitive, such as this endless parade of vehicles that seems to go on forever. The same goes for this part, where you have to blow up jets sitting on the runway. It seems like these parts are in there just to make the game last longer. For comparison purposes, I sampled the arcade version of Total Carnage on Midway Arcade Treasures 2 for the PS2. It suffers from the same issues I have with the Super Nintendo version, but it seems to have a lot more pizzazz, for lack of a better term. It definitely took a graphical hit when it was ported to the Super Nintendo. This is the opposite of what happened when Smash TV was ported over. That version actually looked a lot better than the arcade version. This comparison to the arcade version has no bearing on my final score. I just do it to see which version to recommend if someone wants to play the game, and in this case I recommend the arcade version. In the end, Total Carnage on the Super Nintendo tries to do a lot of things, but it doesn't result in a lot of fun. I think it's only worth tracking down if you're looking for a 2-player co-op game for the Super Nintendo. For everyone else, just stick to Super Smash TV.